Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast, the podcast where two ladies play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome back to another spooky episode of the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jenn. My name is Emily. Welcome. I can't believe what day it is. It is October for sure. I don't know what day.
We're getting towards the end of October here, which is fucking nuts because I feel like I genuinely feel like I'm still in May. I don't know.
I know. We just talked about this last week about how we just get older and the passage of time gets crazier, which isn't good because I, as of when this episode comes out, am now 29. And the only thing that's been playing in my head has been that one, like Schmidt from New Girl, where he's like 29 every single time in my head. And I'm like, I need a lobotomy.
I need a different reference.
Literally, I'm like, somebody get me out of this cage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so fucking old.
I know. And then horrors upon horrors persist because then next year I'll be 30.
Oh god, let's never talk about that ever again.
Oh my god. Well, what have you been up to, Jen, since our spooky month is almost over?
Watching a lot of spooky movies. I just watched Twilight last night for the first time this year.
I feel like we're supposed to start Hua Hua season back in September. You're late.
Well, I watched other spooky movies back in September. I was gonna watch Twilight in September, but like I don't know why it just didn't get into the shuffle. So I need to watch the whole series now before Halloween, obviously. So I watched the first one last night, and the rest are on the agenda for this week, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, what about you, Em? What have you been up to this spookiest of spooky weeks?
I wish I could say I was watching Twilight. I do, as an adult, actually really enjoy watching it. I didn't get the same experience watching it as a kid as Jen did, but I did read the books, and yeah, I do feel like I get my Hua Huas on, I feel like between September and November, so I still have time.
Yeah.
But weirdly enough for me, and I don't know if anybody else feels this way, my like little fall tradition that I've noticed that I do is I always end up really wanting to rewatch Harry Potter at this time of year, which I know we all feel a type of way about J.K. Rowling, but there's just, I don't know what it is, if it's just like the fall air or it gets a little bit colder outside. I'm like, I need witches and wizards and magic and, found family tropes and all this other kind of stuff.
That's fair. Honestly, I haven't rewatched the Harry Potter movies like in so many years that I feel like that might be a fun thing to revisit this November.
You should. It's one of those ones where, like, I feel like we all do this where you watch something and you really love it as a kid and then it just doesn't quite hold up when you're an adult. Harry Potter's one of those ones where even the earlier movies, like, I would still say the first to the fourth movie are my favorites of the whole franchise. I'm not a super fan of, like, the darker fantasy elements that get introduced later on into the series, but from the first movie, even during a rewatch, it's just so charming, especially the movies for some things, that I still do really like watching it as a grown human being.
I've also never read the Harry Potter books. I've kind of contemplated doing that maybe in November as well.
Honestly, now I have not read them as an adult, so I can't vouch for how well the books hold up, but I do remember thinking that I remember thinking that the character relationships between everybody were just so much more, there's a lot more depth to the characters in the books versus in the movies, which is probably like something that comes up a lot between book franchises that get adapted into movie franchises, book series,
yeah,
whatever, however you say that. So if you do end up doing that, I would be curious on how you feel reading them as an adult, because I remember really liking them, and I remember rereading them up until I think I was like in my teenager years. I have not picked it up again since I think I was like 15, 16.
Well, maybe we could reread them together. That could be a fun little November project for us.
That could be. I'd have to see, because I had physical copies somewhere, and I don't remember where they are or if I still have them. But that would be kind of cute if I did that.
I think we should.
I think we should too. And then as for myself, yeah, I feel like that's pretty much it. Just rewatching Harry Potter's, trying to figure out my Halloween costume, because does our next episode come out before or after Halloween?
On the 31st, like Halloween Day.
Okay, so I will not reveal my Halloween costume yet, but I did decide what I want to be for Halloween this year, and I got my materials in, so.
Ooh, I'm so excited for you.
It's very artsy. I haven't been as creative the last few years with my Halloween costume. I feel like this is a little closer to my usual level of creativeness, I should say. So.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. It'll be fun. But with that, we should get into my story for you here today, which, caveat being, I know I mentioned this the last time we recorded and the last time I did an episode. This is another one of those ones where I'm pretty sure I've covered it at least in part before, whether that's mixed in with another story or told it with a separate set of notes. So if it sounds familiar, I'm sorry. But
We're just having a repeat October. You know what? Cozy season. It's like when you put on your favorite TV show you've seen 1,000 times, except for in podcast form.
Right.
And we may or may not have covered it before, so it may or may not be a repeat. We don't even know.
So if it sounds new to you, that's amazing. And I'm I'm happy and I'm here for it. The reason why I picked it, though, even though it does sound so familiar to me, is this is just one of those kind of like scary story type ones that is very charming, which I feel like is very Halloween coded. So I wanted to do it closer to Halloween, especially for what I've prepared for notes so far in a few different stories. It just kind of felt the closest to like that the charm, I guess, of Halloween. So I couldn't, if I had to pick one, I would have picked this one.
Vibe.
Yeah. So let's get into our wheel of questions. And if this sounds familiar to you, let me know. But we'll see.
Yeah, email us and tell us that we're stupid.
Please do. I need to hear it sometimes. It keeps me humble. So
yeah, exactly. Keep us accountable, guys.
Yes. All right. What is the worst thing to see in the ocean?
Literally anything. When I was in the Mediterranean recently, I like looked down and there was like a fish next to my foot, and I was like, oh hell no. And it was like literally like so small. Like this big. And I know you guys can't see that, but Emily can, so she knows what I mean.
Literally
and
like
I was like
3 inches is what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm like I know that this is where they live, but like it was kind of shocking for some reason. I was like, "Hello, what are you doing here?"
Oh my god, there's fish in the ocean? What are you doing here?
Get out.
I'm in the ocean. We can't both be in the ocean at the same
We
time.
cannot coexist. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm here. You got to figure out somewhere else to be. Yeah. But no, genuinely, if I like looked down and I saw like a giant shark or like a killer whale, I would probably I would go to another level of being.
I think at that point that's literally when your heart just goes boom, and then just like you're like, that's it.
I transcend. Yes.
Yeah, you're like, oh no.
Jenn passed away not from the shark that was beneath her boat, but just from looking at him.
Yeah, but just knowing that he's there. That's
yeah. Fair. It was too much.
I love that, because also when I was going through my questions and thinking about this, I kind of came to the same conclusion, which is that I am probably scared of most things that are in the ocean, or at least I have a lot of opinions about the worst things in the ocean are. So I was like, what would be the absolute worst thing? Definitely if you were stranded and there was like you said, like a shark or something under your boat. Yeah, that's not good. If I'm swimming and then there was like a whale or something under me, like I know that whales are like docile, But also, like, I'm short for a human being. Like, I'm pretty sure that's like extra short compared to whales, and I don't plan on getting accidentally beat up by a whale anytime soon. So that's also a pretty bad thing. And then I was like remembering this whole concept of like I don't know what you call it, like just general fear of the ocean that people have because it's like dark and it's like unknown and there's no land and people see things like hallucinate. And I was like, I guess if I was also to think about the worst thing that could happen from like a hallucination standpoint, probably the reflection of my own self would be the other worst thing to see in the ocean. Like
a reflection of yourself.
But like picture this for a moment, that you're out in the middle of the ocean all by yourself, right? You're just swimming, doggy paddling or whatever around, and then you're like, ooh, it's kind of foggy. And then you're like looking out and you're like, wait a minute, do I see a person in the mist? And then it's you. I'd be like, no. Feels
R.I.P.
very much like a spooky short story.
just for you. I also forgot. I keep meaning to mention this to you. When we were in the ocean recently, I saw it's called, I think, a Portuguese man of war jellyfish.
No, you didn't.
We did, because
John,
John,
huge and so dangerous.
my husband saw it and he was like, oh, like, look, it's a cute little blue jellyfish. And I was like, oh, because it's like they float on the surface, right? And I was like, I was so scared. I was like, get away from it.
And that's actually another worst thing about the ocean is jellyfish. I don't care about anything anybody has to share with me about a jellyfish. I don't like them. I don't like that they don't have brains and that they kill people. I don't like that.
Like, they're so scary. And for what? Like, apparently, yeah, they're like one of the most venomous. So that's like not great.
Yeah, not to mention like what you take one wrong step in the ocean on a venomous seashell and then suddenly you're toast, or like
I know
you accidentally scare a blue-ringed octopus. Octopus, you know those things? That's like that's like the size of a golf ball and then suddenly you're toast, or like whatever else.
I know. I honestly could not believe that we saw that. I was like terrified, and I meant to tell you, but I forgot.
That's okay. You've told me now, and I'm horrified for you.
Yeah.
I would have also clocked that immediately and been like, get away from there!
Well, like, I've seen them on TikTok only before, and people being like, yeah, you see this blue thing? Don't fucking touch it. And that man almost fucking touched it.
Cute.
And I was like, literally, we don't need death on this trip. Like, I'm sorry. That's where I draw the line.
You're like, we can miss every train there ever has been to Italy.
But, like, we do not need a death.
And we do not need any death. Yeah, that's true. That would be the biggest bad luck event of your trip ever.
Quite literally. But anyways, so I guess I'm most scared of fucking jellyfish and sharks, and Emily's afraid of her reflection.
That feels right. That feels right to me. Should we spin for our next question?
Mm-hmm.
What's your least favorite way to get around?
Probably by bus.
I'll give you one guess what my least favorite way to get around.
By bicycle. I don't need any guesses. I don't even need any hints. I know the answer.
Okay, so explain yourself. Why buses?
Well, okay, when I'm picturing a bus, I'm picturing us on like a 10-hour overnight bus with a Band-Aid flapping in my face and a bunch of sweaty people around us, and the fucking charging ports don't work. So like that's the kind of bus I'm envisioning, you know, like one of those big overnight kind of situations, not necessarily like your day-to-day point A to point B type situation. I don't know.
That's
but fine. Yeah, I also don't love traveling by bicycle or like scooter. It's not my vibe really. Never traveled by like unicycle, so I can't comment on that, but
I would consider that a non-traditional way of getting around, so we'll stick with the tradish ways. But
yeah.
I could see
Never gotten around by horse and buggy either, so
yeah, right. So don't have an opinion on that. Yeah, see, a dog sled, never been around on dog sled either, so
I
don't have an opinion
have.
on that.
I have. Honestly, I could fuck with getting around a dog sled every day.
That'll be the future. It'll be Dewey as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Dewey.
Dewey the Red-Nosed Dewey.
Yeah, you know that one? Yeah. See, for me on bicycles, this is specifically a me thing. My knees don't work like that. People.
That's why you need an e-bike.
But you still have to pedal an e-bike is the problem. So then,
But like
for
not that
me,
hard.
it's like forever and ever. I thought it was always just the bicycle. I'm like, it's not me, it's the bicycle. It's the bicycle that sucks. It couldn't be me who's just bad at biking. I don't know if it's that my legs are too short. I don't know if it's that my knees are in a weird spot on my body. I literally don't know what it is. If I am on a bicycle pedaling downhill, like something easy, my knees will literally groan and get sore.
Ugh.
And yeah, like it sucks. And I'm like, no. I'm not 30 yet. We're not doing this. And like, I've tried looking up what the fuck my problem could be, and literally everything I look up is, your seat's not the right height. It's the wrong length of bicycle. And I'm like, if we're comparing bicycles to like getting sized for skates or something, fuck it. Nah. It's not worth it to me.
It does feel like it's like way too much effort for what it is. I personally would rather just like walk somewhere or drive or like, you know, there's other ways. So I feel like I'm good without a bicycle.
Me too. All right. Let's spin for our next question. What is a ghostly apparition that you would love to see?
In my home?
Anywhere. Like it would just like, if like think to yourself, what's a ghostly apparition I would love to see, and then like if the situation needs it to be outside of your home, it can be anywhere.
You know what? I would love to see the ghost of Jane Goodall hanging out with her monkeys. That feels timely.
That is such a weird answer. I want to see the ghost of a woman who's freshly passed, who's very dedicated to monkeys. I need to see it.
I would love to see it. What an icon.
I did see a video recently where somebody was basically saying that Harambe's dapping up Jane Goodall in heaven right now, and I was like, wait, this woman just passed away. What? What are we doing?
She was a legend, honestly. I would love to see her and just be like, listen, take me with you. I need to get out of here.
Take me with you. We can get out of this place. Just you and me, ghost of Jane Goodall.
Exactly. What about you? What kind of ghostly apparition do you wish to see?
So when I made this question originally, I was thinking like, oh, what would be something that would be like a really cool story? Like, like going out.
Seeing Jane Goodall as a ghost would be a cool story.
That would be a cool story. I was remembering though back to when we first started this podcast, I went over a few different interesting ghostly apparitions, like the ghost canoe that flies through the sky or something. Like I want something. I want to see something that level of craziness where I literally am like, oh my god, what the fuck? Or like
where people are contemplating your sanity. They're like, should we put her in an institution or not, you know?
Right. Like I want something like that, but I also don't want to. What would make the experience an experience I would love if it was me and many other people who saw the exact same thing.
So that like they don't think you're crazy. Like they're like, oh, this happened. How wild.
Yeah. Or like being in a group of like 20 people and then suddenly the headless horseman appears and obviously does not care about me. He cares about somebody else and he chases them down. That would be awesome.
He chases down one of your enemies.
That I would love that.
You know what? I could be talked into seeing that as well. Jane Goodall's my number one, but that's a close
it's
second.
It's a close number two. So then, I feel like my equivalent to the Jane Goodall would be, I would like to see the ghost of Steve Irwin show up and just say, really anything. His voice.
Just say, "Hey, mate."
Yeah, just say anything to me. I feel like I'd love that. I'd love that too. So
okay, unrelated, but have you seen his son on Dancing with the Stars?
I have not. I have seen many reaction videos from women varying between our age to 20 years older than us being like, I didn't know the baby Irwin was so sexy. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Time out.
And the reactions to him on TikTok are quite feral, I will say. But, like, he's a pretty good dancer.
I wouldn't know. All I've been seeing, like I said, are these women being like, let me in, Australian boy. And I'm like, oh. Because in my brain, I'm like, that's a child.
He's the little guy. And I think he's like 20.
That's a baby. What are you doing? But no, he does seem like he's very fun. He does, somebody said that he apparently has like little comedy bits and stuff that he does for like their animal show and whatever. And I'm like, meh. He's got a little bit of Zamubafu energy to him. The Crab Brothers. I love that for him.
Yeah, like pretty iconic if you ask me.
Super iconic. All right. Let's spin for our last question. Is there a moment in history that you'd love to go back to? If so, when?
Maybe like 2015. Times seem better then.
You're like, fuck the pyramids. I want to go back 10 years ago in the life that I'm currently living, just 10 years ago.
Listen, it was a better time. It was a better time. I will stand by that.
I feel like the longer this episode goes on, the more you're just mentally spiraling.
It's true.
You're like, you know what? Bring back One Direction. Fuck it. Let's go.
Honestly, yeah. Fucking do it.
I will say,
you know how much
back,
money? Do you know how much like I could get with like $20 at the grocery store back then? Like twice as much as what I can get now. I'm just saying.
I want
money I have now. Then
too was kind of fun because there was no such thing as being embarrassing on the internet. Really,
no. Like it was like at the internet. It was there, but like it was not the same as it is now where like everything is like so commercialized. It was a lot more like it was becoming more of a thing, but like it was still pretty like new. Especially with like social media.
Yes, I would agree. I know I was thinking about that recently too, just because of the Taylor Swift album, because that always brings me back to that era in time. Anyways, where I just think back to like the owl necklaces and like the Tumblr era and like One Direction and all these other things, and I'm like,
and being called a hipster.
Like, yeah, and like it's cheesy, but it is fun in its own way. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Owl City.
Halsey.
Yeah. Right.
Chain smokers.
Yep. Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think, but what else? The like
those were the days.
50 million pounds of makeup with like the brown suede skirts and a black long sleeve and some high heeled boots.
Oh my gosh, I would still wear that today, but I feel like it's not as much of a serve as it was then.
No, apparently today to serve, you gotta wear your nice blue denim jeans and a white pair of running shoes and a black tank top, and you're like, I'm so original.
Hell yeah.
And you're so cute. I don't know. I feel like if I was picturing a moment in history I'd love to go back to, it's a weird question because there's so many things we learn about history today where I'm like, ooh, it's all kind of bad. But if I had to think about like what might be kind of neat to see, I don't know, like Victorian England would be cool to see. Like there's lots of things that'd be cool to see.
See, there's lots of things that I think would be cool to see, but the more you think about them, the less I would actually want to like live in that. Like maybe to like pop in for like a few hours and like get a little taste and then immediately leave, because women mostly had no rights during many of those eras.
Exactly. So moment
or
in history I'd love to go
plumbing.
back to many, if it's only for a few hours. If I was to pick like a moment in history that it's like I go there and I live there. I don't know. I'd pick the 90s, I guess. Like, I do appreciate the way the technology has made life so much easier. But I think just like 90s culture was also really interesting, and it's not too far away from where we're at today. And then you'd get to experience the early 2000s as like a person living through it, and I'm like, I don't know.
I honest, like, as someone who's like born in the late 90s, I feel like it would have been fun to like experience being a teenager in the 90s. I think that
like
would have been
a teenager in the 90s and then a young adult in the early 2000s.
like, that would have been such a vibe.
Wouldn't it? So that would be like my it's like,
and then we just skip over 2008.
Yes. And then we just from 2008 till
2010, 2012.
Yeah, till 2012, and then we get 5 years, and then let's just skip from 2018 to 2024.
I don't know. I'm not loving the timeline we're in right now. I don't want to relive it again.
You're like, ooh, wait, how about we just don't talk about what happens after 2016?
Yeah. A lot happened in 2016 that I don't love.
Right?
But anyways.
Okay. Yes. So, I know you're not going to know what my story is because I was purposely extremely vague this time, but do you have an idea?
A ghost from a different age on a boat.
I mean, that's pretty close. That's like, that's like 75% of the way there. That's really close.
Hell yeah. I'm so smart.
I need to get better at this. I never guess your stories. But I'll tell you the description, and then you can tell me if you've heard of this before and if I've covered it on the podcast before. Because what I think is happening, Jen, is back when we used to do themed episodes around Halloween time is kind of where I think some of this is coming from. When we used to do like very short stories in the same episode, but it was like of a theme. I think that's where some of this is coming from.
Oh, it could be, for sure.
Right?
But that was like years ago.
Right?
We've been doing the podcast for 6 years now. Isn't that fucking crazy?
I know, right? I know. Because we came back from Europe, and then we were like, let's start a podcast. And we still do it.
Yeah, and here we are.
Right? Scary.
So scary.
Here's my description. The Flying Dutchman is a legendary ghost ship, allegedly never able to make it to port, but doomed to sail the sea forever. The myths and ghost stories are likely to have originated from the 17th century Golden Age and the Dutch East India Company, and of Dutch maritime power. The oldest known extant version of the legend dates from the late 16th century. According to the legend, if hailed by another ship, the crew of the Flying Dutchman might try to send messages to land or to people long dead. Reported sightings in the 19th and 20th centuries claim that the ship glowed with a ghostly light, and in ocean lore, the sight of this phantom ship functions as a portent of doom. It was commonly believed that the Flying Dutchman was a 17th century cargo vessel known as a fleet.
I feel like there was a movie that I recently saw about this.
I think it's come up a few times, which is also why I'm like half thinking I did a story on this and half not, because I'll give you some examples. The Flying Dutchman is in SpongeBob. The Flying Dutchman is referenced in the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I believe I talked about the Flying Dutchman in the episode where I covered different types of ghost ships.
Maybe. I feel like there is also a movie about it, but like I cannot recall what it's called. I just tried looking it up, but
You just watched a documentary about the Flying Dutchman?
Yeah,
a movie or something.
I definitely did not watch a documentary about this.
Could you imagine? You're like, I definitely saw a movie that talked about the Flying Dutchman. It's just like the documentary of the Flying Dutchman, and you're like, I don't know.
I feel like there was that guy in it. Hold on, I got it.
There was a guy. Men are everywhere.
Oh, what's his name?
Meh.
It'll come to me. I'll think of it eventually at 3 a.m. when we finish recording.
Perfect time to think about it. But if this doesn't sound super familiar to you outside of a strange movie / documentary you probably watched, I'm just gonna get into it and then we can talk about it at the end.
Okay, take her away, Em.
The first known print reference to the ship appears in travels in various parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa during a series of 30 years and upwards of 1790 by John MacDonald. So,
John A. MacDonald?
No. We're basically getting right into I usually describe what I'm doing first. I didn't this time for some reason. Basically, we're getting into some of the first times that we have in documented history of the Flying Dutchman being discussed and or depicted in literature.
Okay.
So, it appears in a book in 1790 by John, not A. MacDonald, and it says, the weather was so stormy that the sailors said they saw the Flying Dutchman. The common story is that this Dutchman came to the Cape in distress of weather and wanted to get into harbor, but could not get a pilot to conduct her and was lost, and that ever since in very bad weather her vision appears. So basically, like I said, in 1790, some people were in a bad storm and then suddenly this like giant ghost ship appears. Now, I want to give you a reference, Jen, because when you're thinking of an old boat, you're probably not picturing what the Flying Dutchman actually looks like. I need you to look up a 17th century FLUYT boat. It quite literally looks like something out of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes, I see. It's like a very classic, like, pirate boat-esque.
Yeah, like huge mungus, anything you can think of that's extremely piratey, this is what that boat looks like. So imagine that the first time somebody mentioned seeing this, they're like, it was a terrible storm and this fucking huge creepy boat appears out of nowhere and then disappears. Like, that's pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
So then the next literary reference appears in chapter VI of A Voyage to Botany Bay in 1795, also known as A Voyage to New South Wales, written by George Barrington, who lived from 1755 and then died in 1804. And it says, I had often heard of the superstition of sailors respecting apparitions in doom, but never given much credit to the report. It seems that some years since a Dutch man-o'-war, that's also what they call them, hilariously enough, with like your jellyfish story. Yeah, that's also what these boats are called, or the man-o'-wars.
Well, that's extra spooky.
Isn't it? So, some years since a Dutch man-o'-war was lost off the Cape of Good Hope, and every soul on board perished. Her consort weathered the gale and arrived soon after at the Cape. Having refitted and returned to Europe, they were assailed by a violent tempest and nearly in the same latitude. In the night watch of some people saw, or imagined they saw, a vessel standing for them under the press of a sail, as though she would run them down. One in particular affirmed it was the ship that had floundered in the former gale, and that it must certainly be her, or the apparition of her, but on its clearing up the object, a dark, thick cloud disappeared. Nothing could do away the idea of this phenomenon on the minds of the sailors, and on their relating their circumstances when they arrived in port. The story spread like wildfire, and the supposed phantom was called the Flying Dutchman. From the Dutch, the English seamen got off the infatuation, and there are very few Indiamen, but what has someone on board who pretends to have seen the apparition. So, basically what that means is this boat appears again in the same circumstance, which is a storm has happened, this like spooky ass giant ship shows up, but then when the storm starts to clear, the people on the boat who saw this ghost ship watched it turn into like a giant black fog and then fade away. So then when they got back to port and they were telling everybody like, we saw the craziest shit, they were like, basically there were people of like few ethnicities and nationalities who were on board the ship at this time, and the general idea is that they kind of got the impression that all of the Englishmen were going bananas over this ghost ship, but that there were some people who were Indian as well as Dutch who kind of didn't really seem to buy into what it is that they saw. So people had very mixed opinions on if this was an actual thing that happened or not, but they still reported it anyways. And then the next literary reference introduces the motif of punishment for a crime in the Scenes of Infancy, which is from Edinburgh, 1803, and written by John Leyden, 1775 to 1811. And he says, it is a common superstition of mariners that in the high southern latitudes on the coast of Africa, hurricanes are frequently ushered in by the appearance of a spectre ship, denominated the Flying Dutchman, and the crew of this vessel are supposed to have been guilty of a dreadful crime, and in the infancy of navigation, and to have been stricken with pestilence, and are ordained still to traverse the ocean on which they perished, till the period of their penance expires. And if that sounds familiar, that is more or less the storyline of what happens in Pirates of the Caribbean, which is, at least in this case, they're like, if a hurricane is going to appear, the first thing that you're going to see is not symptoms of a storm, but the ship. And the ship will not dock because the people who are on the ship are already dead, having perished from illness, and are serving their time for a crime. And that's their job, is to appear before a hurricane to warn people before then disappearing because it's actually a ghost ship.
Spooky.
Then we have Thomas More, 1779 to 1852, who places the vessel in the North Atlantic in his poem, written on a passing Dead Man's Island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence late in the evening, September 1804, fast gliding along a gloomy bark. Her sails are full, although the wind is still, and there blows not a breath her sails to fill. And a footnote adds, the above lines were suggested by a superstition that is very common among sailors, who call this ghost ship, I think, the Flying Dutchman. So now it's been 100 years, and at this point it's become very common among sailors to be like, oh, you better be careful, because if you go out sailing in a storm, you're going to see the Flying Dutchman.
Like an urban legend at this point.
Basically. So then Sir Walter Scott, 1771 to 1832, who's a friend of John Layton's, was the first to refer to the vessel as a pirate ship, writing in the notes to Rokeby, which was first published in December of 1812, that the ship was originally a vessel loaded with great wealth, on board of which some horrid act of murder and piracy has been committed, and that the apparition of the ship is considered by mariners to be the worst of all possible omens. So we kind of circle back again to, instead of it being like, oh, a hurricane is coming and they all died of pestilence and they're here to warn us, to being, the ship was full of money and people killed for that money, and now it's basically like they're living in their own version of hell. And when you see this ship, like, you better get the fuck out of there because some real bad's about to happen to you.
Ooh, I hate that.
Right? And according to some sources, 17th century Dutch captain Bernard Falk is the model for the captain of the ghost ship. Falk was known for the speed of his trips from the Netherlands to Java and was suspected for being in league with the devil.
He's
course. Here!
Here he is.
I love how they're like, it can't possibly be that this man just is really good at boat. His job is boat. He's really good at boat. It can't be that. It actually has to be
Absolutely
that he made
not.
a deal. Yeah, it had to be that he made a deal with the devil, and that he's just so fast because he made this deal with the devil.
Yeah. He made a deal with the devil because his dick's bigger, and that's a line from Taylor Swift's new album.
It's the same thing. No.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's really funny. So then, the first version of the legend as a story was printed in Blackwood's Edinburgh magazine for May 1821, which puts the scene as the Cape of Good Hope. And the story names the Dutchman's captain as Hendrik van der Decken, which I feel like is also a name that's come up a little bit in some pirate movies and pirate stories, but we'll just pass that. Hendrik van der Decken, and introduces the motifs, which was then elaborated by later writers, of letters addressed to people long dead being offered to other ships for delivery, but if accepted would bring misfortune, and the captain having sworn to round the Cape of Good, although it should take until the Day of Judgment. So now we circle back again to the Pirates of the Caribbean thing, where when they say letters addressed to people long dead being offered to other ships for delivery, they're talking about slavery. So basically what they're saying is that people would be having these letters, and these letters are written to people being like, okay, we need you to deliver, or we need a delivery of these people. And if you accept that, basically being like, oh yeah, I'm pro-slavery, like I'm going to sell these people, I'm going to do these people, you'll find out that the person who wrote the letter is the captain of the Flying Dutchman, or is a long since dead person, and by accepting this slave agreement, you are bringing misfortune upon yourself, and you are doomed to, like the captain, round the Cape of Good Hope until the Day of Judgment, which is like a biblical thing. Basically until the end of time.
Good. Fuck them slave owners.
I know. I saw that and I was like,
Hell yeah.
Snaps for the
They
pirate, the ghost pirates.
to circle in hell forever.
Right? And then these are just some more comments about the actual boat, the Flying Dutchman. So she was a Amsterdam vessel and had sailed from port 70 years ago. From, I'm referencing, I believe, some more of John Layden's notes. And it says, she was an Amsterdam vessel and sailed from port 70 years ago. Her master's name was Vanderdecken. He was a staunch seaman and would have his own way in spite of the devil. For all that, never a sailor under him had reason to complain, though how it is on board with them nobody knows. The story is this, that in doubling the Cape they were a long day trying to weather the Table Bay. However, the wind headed them, and went against them more and more, and Vanderdecken walked the deck swearing into the wind. Just after sunset, a vessel spoke to him, asking him if he did not mean to go into the bay that night. Vanderdecken replied, "May I be eternally damned if I do, though I should beat about here till the day of judgment." And to be sure, he never did go into the bay, for it is believed that he continues to beat about it in these days still, and will do so long enough. This vessel is never seen but with foul weather along her. So now they're like, basically this guy from Amsterdam, Vanderdecken, who is like a maybe fictitious figure, maybe not, doomed the vessel because basically the spirits are like, are you sure you want to do this? And he was like, if I wasn't sure, I wouldn't be here. And they're like, okay, you get a sail forever. Oops.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry. Yep.
Sucks to be you.
Right? There have been many reported or alleged sightings in the 19th and 20th centuries. A well-known sighting, was by Prince George of Wales, the future King George V. He was on a 3-year voyage during his late adolescence in 1880 with his elder brother Prince Albert Victor of Wales and their tutor John Neil Dalton. They temporarily shipped into the HMS Incontinent after the damaged rudder was repaired in their original ship, and the 4,000-ton corvette Bachante. The prince's log, indeterminate as to which prince, and was due to later editing before publication, and records the following for the pre-dawn hours of July 11th, 1881, off the coast of Australia. July 11th at 4 a.m., the Flying Dutchman crossed our bows. A strange red light as a phantom ship all aglow in the midst of which light the masts, spars, and sails of a brig 200 yards distant stood out in strong relief as she came upon the port bow, where also the officer of the watch from the bridge clearly saw her, as did the quarterdeck midshipman, who was sent forward at once to the forecastle, but on arriving there was no vestige, nor any sign, however, of any material ship was to be seen either near or right away to the horizon, the night being clear and the sea being calm. 13 persons altogether saw her. At 10:45 a.m., the ordinary seaman who had this morning reported the Flying Dutchman fell from the foretopmast cross trees onto the top gallant forecastle and was smashed to atoms. Which is such a paragraph.
I would say.
I don't know if I have ever in my life used the sentence smashed to atoms, but I might now.
Honestly, it's a very good descriptor.
Right? But basically, what I find interesting about this passage is the Flying Dutchman is a ship from Amsterdam. The reports of the Flying Dutchman are typically from the Netherlands all the way down to like Africa area. In this excerpt, though, from the Princes, they're saying that they saw her off the coast of Australia and that she was also accompanied with a strange red light that illuminated the ship so you could see everything from like the literally from tip to toe of the entire ship. There was no mistaking that this was a ship.
That is a ship from hell if I've ever heard one.
Basically. And then by the time the morning came, it was gone, which I feel like I could be wrong unless there was like significantly more people on ships back then, for which all I know there could be. This, I feel like they would not have documented it in quite this fashion if this was like a normal occurrence.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. To me, it almost reads more UFO-ish, but then it finishes with...
It does give UFO. That is what it is, yeah.
right? So it gives UFO, and then not only that, 13 people confirmed seeing this crazy ship, red glowing ship in the middle of the night. And then the next morning, the man who reported the sighting literally falls from his little crow's nest basket thing onto the ship and dies.
That's crazy.
Right? But that also kind of follows what's been going on with like people seeing the ship and then having misfortune befall them, like it being an omen of death or an omen of something bad happening. So it does follow the kind of the trend of what's going on
The
here.
pattern.
So I do find that part interesting.
That is interesting.
Then
Are there any modern sightings, or are you getting to that?
I'll get into it a little bit, and then I'll get into it a little bit more.
Okay.
So then we have Nicholas Montserrat, the novelist who wrote The Cruel Sea, described the phenomenon in the Pacific Ocean in his unfinished final book that he wrote called The Master Mariner, which was partially inspired by this tale. He lived and worked in South Africa during the war, and the story of the Wandering Jew. Probably the most credible explanation is a superior mirage of Fata Morgana seen at sea. So this is a quote from him. The news soon spread through the vessel that a phantom ship with a ghostly crew was sailing in the air over a phantom ocean, and that it was a bad omen and meant that not one of them should ever see land again. The captain was told the wonderful tale, and coming on deck, he explained to the sailors that the strange appearance was caused by the reflection of some ship that was sailing on the water below the image, but at such a distance they could not see it. There were certain conditions of the atmosphere, he said, where the sun's rays could form a perfect picture in the air of objects on Earth, like the images one sees in a glass or water, but that they were not generally upright, as in the case of the ship, but reversed, so turned bottoms upwards. And this appearance in the air is called a mirage. He told the sailor to go up to the foretop and to look beyond the phantom ship. The man obeyed and reported that he could see on the water below the ship in the air one precisely like it. Just then another ship was seen in the air, only this one was a steamship and was bottom upwards, as the captain had said these mirages generally appeared. Soon after the steamship itself came in sight, the sailors were now convinced and never afterwards ever believed in phantom ships again. So
there's a logical explanation for everything.
Literally, he's like, my brethren, bros.
No.
It is literally a mirage. You see this ship and you go, go ship. In like 5 minutes, you're going to see a for real ship just under where that one is coming in. And then everybody was like, no way, for real? And then it showed up and they were like, I think this man is cooking.
This guy's onto something.
This guy's onto something. So this optical effect is known as looming, and it occurs when the rays of light are bent across different refractive indices, and this could make a ship just off the horizon appear hoisted in the air. Then in 1797 to 98, a poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, contains a similar account of a flying ship, which may or may not have been influenced by the story of the Flying Dutchman. And one of the Flying Dutchman short stories, which was titled Vanderdecken's Message Home, or The Tenacity of Natural Affection, was published in Blackwood's during 1821. A man named John Boyle O'Reilly wrote a poem titled The Flying Dutchman in 1867. It was first published in The Wild Goose, which was a handwritten newspaper produced by Fenian convicts while being transported to Western Australia, which I think that's so funny. It's like you probably know this because of this excerpt from this newspaper that convicts had in 1867. And I'm like,
yeah, that's my usual reading.
How did you know?
Every day.
How did you know that was my newspaper?
I get it delivered from Australia.
Yeah. Then Dutch poet J. Slaarhoff published a number of related poems, particularly in his 1928 volume El Dorado, which I thought was interesting. Then,
ooh.
Right, Ward Moore's 1951 story, The Flying Dutchman, is used the myth as a metaphor for an automated bomber which continues to fly over Earth, where humanity has long since destroyed itself and all life in a nuclear war, which is interesting. British author Brian Jacques, I don't know, I'm not French, wrote a trilogy of fantasies. Jacques. I have no idea. I don't know. I know John can't hear me, but inside he felt something curl up a little bit cringy, and he was like, "No,
No.
no."
You might be getting further from the correct pronunciation.
Probably. But he wrote a trilogy of fantasy/young adult novels concerning two reluctant members of the Dutchman's crew, a young boy and his dog, whom an angel charges to help those in need, which feels very Tintin to me for some reason.
Yeah.
Then the first novel was titled Castaways of the Flying Dutchman in 2001.
Ahoy
And the second was titled...
Castaways.
Yeah.
We are castaways. Ahoy there.
Then the second was titled The Angel's Command in 2003, and the third was titled A Voyage of Slaves in 2006. The comic fantasy Flying Dutch by Tom Holt is a version of the Flying Dutchman story, and in this version, the Dutchman is not a ghost ship, but crewed by immortals who can only visit land once every 7 years with the unbearable smell that is a side effect of the elixir of life wearing off. Naturally. So then we're going to get a little bit more into where you might recognize the Dutchman from or other people. So this is like in television where it appears. In The Buccaneers from 1956, episode 22, season 1 features a ghost ship known as the Dutchman. Ultimately, it is found that a crew of pirates have taken the ship after a previous captain was hanged and used it in a lucrative business, drawing other ships in, stealing their cargo, and then scuttling them, all while haunting the crews. This is ultimately thwarted by Dan Tempest and the crew when they attempt to take the ship into harbor. Then, in Judgment Night, a 1959 episode of Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone, the U-boat captain who sank an Allied passenger ship in World War II finds himself doomed to forever relive the experience as a Flying Dutchman passenger of the torpedoed ship. Two other Twilight Zone episodes called The Arrival and The Death Ship also refer to the legend. The Flying Dutchman was also featured in Cave of the Dead, which is a 1967 episode of A Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. In 1967, the Spider-Man cartoon Return of the Flying Dutchman, the ship appears as an illusion created by Mysterio. In 1976, Land of the Lost, episode Flying Dutchman, the ship appears contained by Ruben Vandermeer, who attempts to take Holly with him to give him company on his endless voyage. A ghostly ship known as the Flying Dutchman appears as a reoccurring character in the animated television series SpongeBob SquarePants, which I brought up right at the start of the episode because that's where I recognized it from. And then in the anime/manga series One Piece, the Flying Dutchman is an undersea pirate ship captained by Vanderdecken, and his descendants over the course of generations has maintained a reputation as a ghost ship accordingly through its damaged appearance.
I did figure out the movie, by the way.
Oh, okay. What is it?
It's the last voyage of the Demeter. And it's a take on Dracula. So basically, like, Dracula is aboard this ship that's going from Transylvania to London. And spookiness occurs and it becomes a ghost ship by the end.
Ooh, I mean, that is kind of cool. Don't get me wrong. I actually do really love the concept of a ghost ship. There's just something like...
There's something really cool about it.
Distantly, fascinatingly eerie about it. Mm-hmm. Like, I do really think it's interesting, especially if, like, that's like one of those things though, like in today's day and age, let's say hypothetically speaking, because I don't think either of us are ever interested in doing this, we're on a cruise ship and we're like having our little margaritas, staring off the edge of a boat because that's what we do because we're not afraid of the ocean, right? In this hypothetical situation.
Totally not.
And we see like a literal 1700s fucking pirate ship floating in the water. I would lose my ever-loving mind. I'd be like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. It would be so scary, but so cool.
I would legitimately throw myself off the boat. Like, it's time for the ocean to take me.
Right? I know. Like, that would be the moment. I'd be like, you know what? I've seen enough. It's time to...
It's time to go.
Head out. Right?
Yeah, I'm done. Maybe I've had too many margaritas. Who's to say?
Exactly one too many. But has this story felt familiar at all for you today?
Slightly. I feel like we might have talked about... Like, I know we've talked about ghost ships before, so I don't know if we've specifically talked about this one, but... It's so interesting.
Right?
But it's like gone from like oh hey guys, by the way, some bad weather's coming, to like literally you're gonna die.
I know. And I think it's having that variety that is really interesting. And then also the different takes. Because it feels, honestly, like the concept of Ghost Ship to me kind of feels very Scooby-Doo-ish.
Yeah.
To me,
And
I don't know
love
why.
that.
I do. I really love that. So, I mean, I said my piece on this, and I feel like we're more or less of all the same opinion. But if you listen to today's episode and would like to send us an email being like, I saw a ghost ship, or my grandpa's the Flying Dutchman, you could.
That would be something.
That'd be sick. But you can also email us at wheelofcrime@gmail.com. You can also leave us a review on wherever you're listening to our podcast. 5 stars would be appreciated. And then we also have our social media, which is Wheel of Crime on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. We have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon. And then we have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com. If you want to check us out on there. And lastly, as we all probably know at this point, if you're one of our continued listeners, we are going to be doing a listener episode for our next episode, which is exciting.
Yes.
But if you're listening, that means you still have time to submit a story. The forum is up on all of our social media. You can click the link on our profile to upload your story and maybe get a feature on our listener episode coming next week.
Yes, so get those stories in, but that's it. That's all. We'll see you next week for an extra spooky Friday Halloween episode. Gotta love when the timing works out that way.
Yippee! Yippee!
All right. Bye.
Bye.